Hello random people on the internet, my name is Banana, and today we are talking about power creep in Hypixel Skyblock. So this is a topic that has been going on in my mind for a very long time, because the admins seem to love just putting in a bunch of different forms of power creep, and if you don't know what that is, I'm going to explain it later in the video. But before we get to that, I do have to remind you that only a small percentage of the people that watch this video are actually subscribed, so if you could go down below, press that subscribe button, I'd appreciate it a lot. It's really easy, and you can always undo it later. So, power creep. If you don't know what power creep is, it's pretty much when developers of a game add a bunch of items to make a bunch of other items just irrelevant by just having the new items be way better or pretty much equally good with less grind required. So, a lot of you who play Skyblock right now probably realize what I'm talking about, and I'm talking about the release of Floor 5 of the Catacombs, because Floor 5 of the Catacombs did a couple things to just surprise me when it came to Skyblock. It pretty much destroyed the Midas. I made a video months back called Topping the Midas Sword or something like that, and it was basically talking about how hard it is to make a sword that's better than Midas because people have spent millions and millions of coins, especially since the Gilded Reforge got added, where people are spending like 40 million to put that on. So they're spending over 100 million coins on their Midas sword. So if the admins added anything to be better than the Midas, it should have to be an insanely difficult to get weapon with just like an insanely tough grind to get there. Obviously, in deciding how to top the Midas, the admins pretty much went and said, okay guys, so we're gonna go and make the aspect of the end better than the Midas sword. So they did nerf this. The warped stone aspect of the end was better than the Midas, and I don't think it is anymore, but it is still so good for its price. And the admins also went and added two swords that actually are better than the Midas in the Livid Dagger and the Shadow Fury. So the Shadow Fury only comes from the bedrock chest on floor 5, which is pretty rare to get because floor 5 is pretty difficult for some people. If you're a god tier gamer like myself, obviously you're going to be getting the bedrock chest all the time, but it is only like a 0.5% chance drop from there, and you need 12 million coins. So that sword is maybe like acceptable to be better than the Midas, but the Livid Dagger is so common, and they keep nerfing it. They try and make it worse, but this thing is just so good because they designed the sword to be really good. So the first two stats of the Livid Dagger are not that impressive, coming in at 240 damage with 165 strength, and I mean the Midas has 390 damage with 240 strength, so this is just way worse there. But the last three stats on the Livid Dagger are nuts. You look at its crit chance, it gives you a 100% boost to your crit chance no matter where you are, which means that this is usable by tanks using absolutely perfect Reforge instead of like Renowned. It's usable by people with low combat skill who just can't get crit chance normally. It's even usable by people like mages who are using necrotic and have extremely low crit chance because they will just always crit with this because it's literally 100% outside of dungeons. So if you don't think that's good, you can then go look at the crit damage, which is going to be 160 if you're using Fabled and if you have crit 6 on there, but that's still going to be a 50% crit damage just from the weapon by default. But the pièce de résistance is the bonus attack speed. You immediately max your attack speed with this weapon. What were the admins thinking with this? 100 attack speed with nothing else. Attack speed is usually something that you have to build into. It's usually something you have to think about, but they just went, nah, we're gonna add 100 attack speed onto this weapon that is already super bloated with stats. So the Livid Dagger is just so good already with everything there, and then it has its passive where it's going to be dealing 100% more damage if you're behind the target, and that's just and it has an ability where you can throw your dagger at enemies, and that can crit now, because that is just so fun. So pretty much the Livid Dagger came out and killed the Midas sword. The Midas sword is dead, which I feel like we needed a death of the Midas sword. We needed something to top the best weapon in the game, but something from floor 5 was not the way. The admins have said before that they didn't want floor 5 to be the end of other weapons. They wanted the later dungeon floors to obviously pass the best stuff in the game, because we haven't gotten new endgame stuff since the end update, but if we go back and look at what they were saying, you can see that this release clearly contradicts the stuff that they were claiming in the past.
You would start with this gear, for example, and then end up using dungeon gear. but eventually through playing and collecting a lot of Dragon Essence, you are going to get enough to upgrade whatever gear you want and turn them into dungeon items, and then upgrade them even more with the star system. Simply because we haven't done anything with the late game in months and months, we are gonna do an exception, and in the last few floors of the dungeon, once you get to floor 9 and 10, you may actually loot items that are strictly better than the best items in the game right now. You're gonna get the best armors in the game by beating those floors. To recap, in those first few floors, you will probably be using the current base gear you have, and then you will be using the best dungeon gear you can find, and then you will be using the best gear you have but turned into dungeon gear, and then you will be using the best dungeon gear you have again.
So you can see that Jay of Armin basically went over what he wanted for the Catacombs, and that was that you would start off using your gear. So I mean, everyone did that. You went in with your Wise armor, your Superior armor, whatever you had, and then you would slowly switch into dungeon gear, which was the stage that we were on with like adaptive armor and stuff like that. But with the release of Catacombs Floor 5, they sort of skipped over the third step for a lot of people, which would be converting your gear. So people who are really high level have already done this. You look at people with converted Wise armor, with converted Superior armor, who are just like insanely high level. But they did add the Shadow Assassin armor, and that armor is equal to Superior pretty much in damage, and that's outside of dungeons. Inside of dungeons, Shadow Assassin armor is just objectively better than Superior because its passive is giving you so much more damage as a Berserker, and it's just going to be such a good set. So a lot of people didn't really have to do the conversion of their current gear, and it seems like we're just going to keep going with this dungeon stuff that we have, because the fact that Shadow Assassin is pretty much better than Superior means that there's almost no chance of going back unless they A, nerf Shadow Assassin, or B, somehow buff the stuff that you convert, which would be sort of stupid because I just can't see that happening. But that puts it in a really weird spot for balancing, because that means that on later floors, they're going to have to somehow top Floor 5. So Floor 5 currently has the best sword and the best armor set in the game, which means the next armor set has to be better, and the next sword has to be better, and then the one after that has to be better, and you're just going to start an exponential increase in damage. Because if something like Shadow Assassin from Floor 5 is going to be better than Superior, how good is the Floor 10 stuff going to be? And that's just really scary for me to think about, because I mean, if it's going to just keep increasing and increasing, the current content could become like mid-game content and just get ditched. Because you look at something like the Magma boss, where you just have people one-shotting that just really easily. And I mean, it's already happening with some of the late game stuff. You look at the Endstone Protector, people with Rend, people with the Livid Dagger are just destroying that. So later on, down future floors, other items could get killed, and other bosses are just going to keep dying faster and faster. So unless they can somehow keep making new endgame stuff, it's going to be really weird with this much power creep. As I was sort of mentioning, power creep has always been a problem ever since the End update with Ender Armor just killing every other armor that existed. It's always been a thing that the admins sort of do, but right now it's really scary because we still have so much stuff to come from dungeons, and I mean, I'm just worried for my Yeti sword, my Spirit Scepter. When are these things going to get totally killed by new stuff that they add? Could it be in the next floor? We'll just have to see. But if you did enjoy this video, or if it helped you out at all, please smash that like button, maybe even subscribe. I'll try and be more active. I'm sorry for not uploading for 10 days. I love you guys still. I just had no video ideas, to be fair, and I did not have a graphics card for like 4 days, so that was a pain in the ass. But I'm back. I'm going to be grinding Skyblock videos once again. I do have one really good idea that I just have to do a little bit of grinding for. And yeah, until then, I will talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out.